You're listening to the Oracle Talk Radio Network.
Hello, I'm Sabrina Carpenter.
I'm Dasha.
Hey, I'm Billie Eilish.
What's up, guys? I'm Camila Cabello.
Hey, this is Tate McRae.
I love this station.
I love this station.
You're listening to Chasing Prophecy Radio, where we discuss anything and everything beyond the scope of normal. On the Oracle Talk Radio Network. Broadcasting live in Pittsburgh and Philadelphia.
If it's unexplainable, we're talking about it.
Whether you're a believer or a skeptic,
we cover everything where the unknown becomes the known.
And now, here are your hosts, Jenny Nicasio and Tom Callway.
Welcome to Chasing Prophecy on the Oracle Talk Radio Network. I'm Jenny Nicasio, live from Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, to be in fact. I'm trying to make sure I am live on my homepage, and for some reason, I don't know why it locks me out and I can't do a public post, and it's really messing me up, and I do apologize. It just doesn't give me a chance to make this public, which I don't understand. So anyways, I'm glad to be here today. I almost didn't make it today. I got sun poisoning. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I'm so itchy. Oh my God, I'm covered up. You can't tell, but I am really burnt. Yeah, it's not fair. That's my life. But what if I told you everything we're taught about the soul was just the surface? What if deep within your heart is an ancient cosmic code? Well, I am going to talk about that tonight, but I just want to make sure I have everything in here. Okay. And so but we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about quantum energy. Lemurian, is that how you say it? High Priestess, quantum energy, cosmic channeler. Our guest tonight, she's here to share the secrets inside cracking the sacred heart code. I'm not sure what that is, but a channeled guide. And I want to make sure, we're not broadcasting on X. Oh my God. Well, let's talk about that real quick before we go any further. How about that feud between Donald Trump and Elon Musk? Not really know what's going on, but it's kind of crazy. So if anybody is in the chat can tell me exactly what's going on, I'd appreciate it. But back to our guest. So from childhood, our guest tonight, Monica, she is going to talk about all this crazy stuff. But from childhood, excuse me, oh my God, Monica knew she wasn't like the other ones, the other kids. Her mission to help awaken the cosmic avatar. So we're going to find out what that is inside you and guide you back to your soul's original blueprint, which sounds pretty amazing. So we're going to be diving into frequencies of the new earth, quantum self-love, and what it really means to remember who you are. And before the world told you who you would be, So if you ever looked at the stars and felt that you were meant for more? Now, I know I have. I always wanted to be more. I always felt that this wasn't it. There has to be something more. So we're going to talk about that. So that's going to be crazy. So this episode is your activation. So we're going to stay tuned and we're going to bring our guest in just a second. But for some reason, my thing is not working right. Okay. So Monica, I'm not sure I want to screw up your name. Bermudez? So I think like the Bermuda Triangle, am I right?
Well, like I tell people, I own the Bermuda Triangle.
Well, I was always afraid of that. So I'm not sure, you got to tell me what do you think? Were you afraid of that? I know I was. I remember, I think I watched hi Holly. I think I watched every movie or anything about the Bermuda Triangle.
Yeah.
So
It is really fascinating though, right? So,
yes, it is. It's very, and you know what? They always had the planes that went missing. They
mhm.
would fly over the Bermuda Triangle and then they would be missing. So,
Yeah. I
so-
do feel there is some technology that is in that ocean that was a part of Atlantis, which is an ancient
oh
civilization.
yeah, they had the
Mhm.
lost city of Atlantis. Yeah,
Mhm.
I love that too. I was always
Yeah.
was a kid. I was always into that.
So I do feel there
So
is that technology that's still there that kind of goes into these other dimensions. So that's why um, airplanes and people disappear and end up showing up at like there's been cases about people who show up like later on in years. Like
I know, like there was once a movie. I don't was Mel Gibson star? Did he star in that? Where
well, who knows, maybe.
his plane went into the Bermuda Triangle and he came back like years later. There a lot of years later. But I do see we're broadcasting on my homepage, but it says it's locked. But I see views, so I'm not sure. I hope it is because I
No,
have a
I
lot of
think that
people.
was a Castaway, but that wasn't
Oh
related to the
yeah, maybe it was Castaway.
Although that would be funny if they did that though. Like it would have been more interesting as a movie.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely. So tell
There
me,
is another one also just since we're on the topic, did you know there is a triangle that's in Alaska?
no, are you from Alaska?
No, but I look at the different cases, around the world. So I really am fascinated by the, things that seem bizarre, but really they become normal now to me. But so like a lot of the triangle that's in Alaska is similar to the Bermuda Triangle. And again, I feel like it's certain technology from like ancient civilizations around there too.
Yeah, there's a lot of crazy stuff out there now. I know Egypt, they were saying that they found that a portal? Did you hear about that? The
Well, I'm
portal
sure
in
there's
Egypt?
tons of portals in Egypt because of the pyramids.
They said it was under the pyramids. They found
Yeah.
these a sphere
Oh,
like
the
a
coils that they found,
yeah,
like the structures right underneath the Great
yes.
Pyramid. So
Yes.
they had some kind of radar technology because our technology is so advanced right now that we can actually almost X-ray the Earth, to see what's
Yeah.
underneath. Since not too many people can excavate down there. So what they found were these structures that were so tall. I think they were equivalent to maybe the Eiffel Tower's length, like maybe 20 of them stacked together, or like, the height of an Eiffel Tower or something. If you stack like a bunch of them together, like 20 in total, that's how tall that structure is.
That's
And what they were
crazy.
finding is that the coils are very similar to what Tesla was trying to do in the early 1900s when he was
Yeah,
experimenting with electricity, because Tesla was
I've
actually
heard.
trying to give us free electricity. And I still feel that we're heading that way now, more so than ever. I think he was just too early for his time, that he was really trying to do this, for all of us. He got
Yeah.
shut down, of course, because at the time, there was a lot of there was a greed, right, of like wanting to invest more, and the companies wanting to get more money to. But honestly, there's like new energy, and that's getting into the quantum field of things, right?
Hmm.
The energies of that we're so like in tune right now with quantum, and scientists are moving such accelerated pace that they're uncovering, finding how much the
I
quantum
squatch.
field is. Yeah. So,
Yeah, it's very intriguing, and I like all that. Tesla, I was very oh my God, I was so into him. I like to watch
mm-hmm,
any kind of documentary, and it goes. But you heard of the 369 method? Did you
mm-hmm,
ever hear of
yes,
that? And
I have.
in this is weird because I was so attracted to that because my birthday is 3963. So it was
Mm,
like I felt so connected to that 396. I mean,
yeah.
369. And I would do it. And I would hope to, I don't know if anybody knows about that. They said if you write down what you want, truly want and believe, you have to, it's sort of like prayer. You can't say I want this. Say I have it. I have,
Mhm,
and I have, say I I have such and such money in
mhm,
my bank account.
mhm,
You'd write it down 3 times in the morning, and then and then you 6 times you write it down. I have such and
mhm,
such in my bank account. You write it down 6 times. And then later in the day, you do it again. And I have such and such in my bank account 9 times. And you do this I like for a month and see what happens. I mean, a lot of people, I know it was a big thing with TikTok at one point. It went viral. People were doing it like crazy. And I did it like crazy because it's the same thing with, you never want to like pray. You never want to say, I would like this. You say, I believe it. Like, you know, like Christians believe like when Jesus was healing people and there was a soldier that had a servant's boy that was ill, which was really his son. And he goes, I believe that you don't need to come to see my son. I believe that you will heal him. And he has so much faith.
Yeah.
And that's what, you don't need to, what's that what I'm working on? You don't say, I wish I had, I would love to, dear Jesus, will you please heal me? Say thank you. You always say thank you for healing me. Or the same thing with the 369. Like, thank you for the abundance you've given me. So that's really cool. Well, anyways, I'm sorry how we got on that topic. But anyways, let's get going with the but you say you're not from this world. When did you first realize you were different?
Oh, as a child, I mean, I always felt different from everybody else. I had abilities and I could actually tell when other people were ready to hear it or not. Like I could actually hear people's thoughts, like had telepathy abilities, and I knew what people were about to say, like word for word. But I knew that I couldn't tell them because it wasn't a time to really share that, or they weren't ready to receive that information. So I could almost tune in and tell like where the evolution of consciousness was, of awareness of, these certain abilities. And during the time that I was growing up, we were just, it was still kind of like shut down. Like you were still considered like abnormal, to have these type of abilities. But now I feel like things are much more normal. Like the abnormal is now normal to me. Like, because it seems like most of the people, a lot of people are talking about it more than usual. But since I was little, I've always felt very different. I remember even like looking at stars in the sky and saying, I want to go home without knowing exactly where I was like really directing my attention.
That's cool. I did that too. A lot.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So I mean, like for people who really feel that way, feel like they don't fit, they have some of that.
So you always felt that you felt like you were different than other people.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, it didn't matter like where I went. What
did your family think about that? Did they think you were different?
Yeah, I probably noticed that I was different from them, like because I usually like, even my mom would say like, there's something like so different about you, like it seems so ancient,
Yeah, you have like many souls, probably. Not souls, many lives. You've been here for a while.
Yeah, and what I found was not just here for a while, but also like in other planets and like, other dimensions.
So you feel like you were from a different planet, or just a different dimension?
Very much. I mean, that just started to evolve even more so, and I started to realize that, I'm not really like completely human. So what I've learned is that I'm like half galactic and half human. And then
so you're like a hybrid.
Yeah, I'm kind of like a hybrid. I don't know. I think the word hybrid might mean something different, but half galactic and half humans, like more of the cosmic energy, because I've always felt very cosmic. And so those are the people that I really talk to, and I call them like light masters, So whoever resonates with it will know, in their soul, what is really calling to them, So, and that's why I share these messages, mainly because I know there's so many others out there who feel this way. And, they could be half galactic and half human, or they could be some form of starseed.
Now, Kurt said I always called us the star tribe that felt like we didn't belong here, and we had like an instinct that this wasn't our home. Yeah, I think I have that too. I just feel like you don't fit in. Like
I like that sky tribe.
Yeah, Sky Tribe.
And we're here together now, so it's time for us to like really gather up, ourselves and embrace, all that we are and our differences, even if we feel like we don't fit in, in certain areas on Earth. I think, part of the experience, of course, is having the human experience, but it's also bringing in our own medicine and our own way of being. And some of these are like abilities that we bring from some of these other star systems, or, whatever cosmic self we embody in that moment.
So people who feel like this way, like galactic human, can you tell when you look at somebody, can you tell that they're the same?
Yeah, I think I
not?
could pretty much tell, like, there's a part of me that can tell, like, this, sometimes I'll just say, this is my galactic brother, my galactic sister, But yeah, so I feel like those who come into, like, especially in my circle, I feel they do have that galactic side to them and that cosmic self. And there's definitely that connection to Starseed. For me, Starseed are people who actually who live their lives in other star systems, and they chose to like volunteer to be here right now on Earth, because they're bringing their own medicine, their own experience that they had in these other star systems that were like pretty much interweaving with one another here on the Earth because of the great awakening that we're all going through right now.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. There seems like there's so many that you haven't heard. Like I've seen so many, like on all the different platforms, social media platforms like TikTok and YouTube. That these people are claiming that they are galactic and communicators. That they speak to different. They call it the Galactic Federation, where they're speaking to actually ships that are in our solar systems, that we're not able to see them because there's like a veil over them. And it seems like there's so many of them now, like they're popping up everywhere. So you're saying that this great awakening, more people are coming out and letting them, let us know that they exist.
Yeah, and we're actually getting near this open contact that I feel. And so a lot of people are already experiencing that, I would say, like in their own way individually, but at a collective level, I think we're being prepared in that way for the open
That's
contact.
what it looks like. It's like it's heading. It's like
It's
there's just
building
so
up.
many of them now. And then with all this disclosure, they're talking, like I think they're supposed to bring something else out.
Exactly. Well, the disclosure was the first part of it, right? Where the government's now actually admitting that they do exist. They've been here for a while. They've been working with them for a while, these other star beings. That's just the beginning of what's unraveling,
So it seems like there's so many more people coming out, and a lot more people are waking up to it, that they feel like you said, they feel different. They feel like there's something coming. They don't know what it is, but they have this feeling of urgency that something that's about to happen.
Yes,
which
exactly.
is crazy.
Yes.
So what exactly is the Sacred Heart's Code, and how can it change someone's life today?
So to me, though, the Sacred Heart Code is a bringing together of the upper heart chamber, which is up here, right, close to our throat chakra, which is why sometimes we feel the heart, in our throat, especially when we're feeling like really sad,
When you're
right?
upset.
We're kind of choking, right, almost. So this is like our upper heart, our lower heart, which is part of like there's a human, aspect of it. When those two come together as a molding, you create a sacred heart space, which to me is also like the twin flame energy of the divine feminine energy and the divine masculine energy. And so the best way to, break the code is actually, building that awareness within yourself, that when you start to really do the inner work within yourself of, what is in your heart right now, that you feel like there's a disconnect, right? It feels like there's a separation. So like, especially when we go through certain heartbreaks, we feel more of that separation. But what's really happening is that when you're able to release, any certain attachments and stuff, you're also opening yourself up to your upper chamber heart to come together. So like when you build your heart as a whole, right, in that sacred heart space that we all hold, that sacred heart space, then you start to really feel that wholeness. And it's just a matter of really tapping into your heart constantly and really communicating more with yourself and building that. It's almost like a muscle that you're building, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you're becoming more aware of it, and its own resonance frequency connection that you build within that quantum space as well. And so when the two come together like that, it just feels like, even when you still feel, right, like if you're going through like some kind of heartbreak, it just feels like it can move a lot faster, because this up here is more of a compassionate, the upper chamber is more of the compassionate level in the empathy. And so you're able to like move the energy in to like heal the other aspect, like the human heart that's feeling, I was, the emotional. So the heart is actually like a very multidimensional, like the heart chakra chamber. And it's meant to be a lot more than just like the physical, emotional, aspect of a relationship, right? So I call it more like the galactic, cosmic heart.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's other like different chakra points that are also like within the field, the energy field of the chakra, that kind of extend out, and it goes around. So like a lot of people who have experienced transmissions with me, they feel it in the back also, because they also serve as portals. Like all the chakras in our bodies are like portals.
So what
So
do you mean by transmissions? When you're actually having like a
when
telepathy thing?
I do,
Or
because I channel light language, so I call those transmissions. And even when I'm speaking sometimes, like right now, like sharing information on this, there's a part of me that's transmitting my cosmic, galactic self. But when I really get into the light language, it goes even deeper. Like people have experienced some really interesting things, like going through portals and like really like, way out there, like they're really out of this world. Especially like the circle that I just had during the new moon, because I've been doing like the multiversal circle of creation group.
what's that?
And so that's when I go into the new moon energy to like really cement the manifestation, which is related to what you were sharing earlier, right? About saying I have it, now.
Mm-hmm.
And really where I emphasize is adding gratitude. I'm grateful that I have this now. And so you're really cementing it. And then I bring in a lot of the multiversal energy transmission through light language. And it's whoever gets present who wants to come in, right? These are beings of love. And most of them are my guides. And some of them are the dragons. So they did come in during that session. And it was just very, very powerful, because I had people share some really amazing stories. Like, because I don't know if you know, but I live in Mount Shasta right now, which is like one of the biggest like portal hub, right?
Where is that?
Mount Shasta, California.
Oh, California.
Yeah. So, but I don't know if you're aware,
Like,
the portal, that how big, Mount Shasta is, like as in energy vortex
is
energy.
that near Sonoma? Or, not Sonoma. Is it
Uh,
Sonoma?
Well, it's probably like 4 or 5 hours from Sonoma going north, and it's 1 hour south of Oregon border.
Okay.
Yeah, but if those who don't know, actually the area is considered to be a major hub for the entire planet, and it connects to the multiverse and the universe, which is the reason why I'm here. And so and so when I was in the circles, there's a lot of the energy that also comes from the area, from the mountain itself. It's a very majestic mountains. If you look it up on Google, right, you see the pictures of it. But it looks very majestic, and it has these lenticular clouds sometimes, and to me, of course, they look like spaceships that are hiding there. So it's like hidden in plain sight, right? And so when in the circle, though, a lot of people were feeling, actually some of them went through the portal within the mountains. So it's almost like they went up and then down. So this is what some of the experiences that they were having, in there, as they were like really and then I had one of them like actually received the healing that she was asking about. So she was having some kind of like intestinal issues, right? She just had like cancer, like Um,
Oh, wow.
she had, so she had overcome that, but she was still having complications. And so with the energy of the dragon, she was able to heal that. It helped her, like in some way. But it was just a really amazing share that I had in that circle. But those are like the type of transmissions, and experience that many of the different people who come to the circle have. And even when I have private sessions with people, that's a whole other story of like. But yeah, so that's what it is by transmissions, the light language. Yeah, I
And
don't know if you
what?
were looking at the pictures there of the mountain.
Yeah. Can anyone tap into this cosmic avatar that you talk about in your bio, or is it a gift for a chosen few people?
No, it's everybody. We're all the chosen ones. All of us are the ones, with
How
these
do you
abilities.
tap into it? Like if I want to tap into it.
So for me though, is the starting of the Sacred Heart is like a foundation for that. So it's really working through those layers of doing the inner work, taking the time to speak to your own heart and your own soul, and asking yourself, your own inner guidance, and really just reconnecting with your soul that way, because that is your higher guidance. So just really being more tuned in than anything. And it could be through meditations, it could be through other means, right? Like doing something joyful for yourself, right? That would spark that. Um, I found that dancing also helps with that, like
Oh,
music,
really?
but
Dancing?
specific music though, like like maybe not heavy metal, but but for me though, what I found like when you get into like these different trance, sometimes like the drumming, um,
Mm-hmm.
you have like different drumming music and stuff, so that also like helps you reconnect as well. But yeah, there's definitely something to dancing that is connected to the rhythm of the
Is there
universe.
any specific type of dancing, or
No, no, I think it's whatever you feel in your heart that you want to move, in a certain way. Um, to me, like what I found that I really like the most is ecstatic dancing. You ever done ecstatic dancing? It's like a
I'm
free
not sure I know
form.
what it like. What?
It's a free
Like what?
form dancing. Like people just like dance just to dance without being judged how they dance, so
Oh,
they can just like.
just to dance. No,
Yeah, so
no
it's just
fancy.
expressing yourself however you want to express yourself, because that's really what the dancing is. To me, though, is expressing yourself with how you feel in your inner guidance that you want to express yourself. And so, in a way, there's kind of like that energy weaving as well, too, which it's like getting in tune with the rhythm of the universe and the cosmic, dancing type thing. And
Mm-hmm.
I feel those are like big ways, I guess, to get started.
So, what is this Lemurian guides? I used to have Lemurian crystals from
Hmm.
is it the same ones? They were the mining, they used to mine them in Brazil, the
Yeah,
crystals. Is
yeah,
that the same? Well, explain
yeah,
that to our audience.
yeah. So the crystals that they found, some of the minings are in Brazil, um, and so they call them Lemurian crystals because these are like quartz-looking type crystals that have been imprinted with Lemurian codes from before, like when Mu, I guess, disappear from the Pacific Ocean, which was like an ancient civilization. I say Mu because that was the name of the land, but the
Mm-hmm.
Lemurians was the name of the civilization that existed on that land. Um,
Weren't they from outer space?
yeah, some of them
Lemurians?
were like Lyrans and Pleiadians and Sirius. There was a mixture of like different star races that came together. I think some of the original, well, I feel like one of the originals were Lyran connected star seeds, that came to seed a lot of the Earths that a lot of us do have, some of those connections with humans that we're evolving from. A lot of us do
Mm-hmm.
have some of that Lyran DNA as well.
So, what exactly is the Lemurian guides, and how do they help you?
the
And
guides.
what are some of the messages that what are some of the most powerful messages you received from them?
So the Lemurian guides, I mean, so for me though, like I feel like they give us that remembrance of our connections to Lemuria and the ones who really resonate with that civilization, because there was a lot of connection, I would say, more with like nature. And they, in a way, they remind me of like the current indigenous tribes, because they were always so respectful of nature, respectful of all the animals. I'm not saying Atlantis wasn't. I just feel like for Lemuria and Mu, it just feels like it was more of an emphasis. So, in a way, I feel that is our strongest, powerful message, is to reconnect to nature. It's like coming back and plugging in. It's almost like that movie, like Avatar, right, where they had those tails and they would just just plug into like the tree or whatever, literally, right? But really, like the energy field of the trees themselves do emanate, certain like auric fields, and a lot of scientists are finding that. And so that to me is the biggest emphasis that I get from the Lemurian guides, that I feel, the most powerful, because that is how I just been doing a lot more hikes and walks out in nature. It just feels like I can recharge my battery, especially when I'm feeling like a bit stressed about something, or like overloaded or burnt out, from like too much work. It helps me get rebalanced, and I feel that is the part that we're missing from life, because sometimes we get so involved with the rat race of living.
Yeah, most definitely. I think we all needed just to take a break. So how does someone know that they're living out the alignment with their soul blueprint? How do they know?
I would say that they would feel that unity consciousness, in a way, like, feeling like the oversoul of the connectedness with the other souls. And the oversoul, when I say, I'm thinking of like the umbrella, it's like an umbrella for like many different souls that fall under that category. And I do feel like many oversouls do connect in that way. And so that kind of builds that blueprint of that connection. So I feel like, for those who want to feel like that feeling, um, they wouldn't feel like too much of the separation. Because for a long time, though, I did feel like really separated. Like I didn't feel like I really belong here, like I said, and I really was feeling that nostalgic feeling. So I felt that I didn't want to be here anymore. But now, when where I feel it, the solar plexus here, that I feel like most of our connection is through there as well, with wherever our star home family is, that we feel the most resonance with, that got reconnected and rebuilt and repaired. And a lot of it, has to do with really bringing back our own power. Because sometimes we get into like power leaks when we're like too focused on the external, or too codependent on someone else, and that to me is like a power leak. So if we, were to cut certain like energy cords from our solar plexus, because sometimes we do end up with those energy cords when we start thinking too much about other people, or start worrying about, certain things, we start building those energy cords. But if we just really become present in the moment with ourselves and our own soul and our own heart, are we able to really just reconnect ourselves in that way, and thinking that it's really inside of us more so than it is outside. And you start building that relationship with yourself, and then you will feel that you've never been alone, and that is where the blueprint of your existence is, with the other connections within yourself, and the connection with your guides as well, your spirit guides. And many of the spirit guides are future aspects of you.
Wow, that's amazing. So are we already living in a new earth? And what does that mean for people waking up?
Yeah, so I think many people will experience it different, right? Some people may still be experiencing the the old earth of like the separation. That's really how I see it. Where the old earth is more like a separation, the new earth frequency is more of that interconnectedness with one another. So you don't really feel alone, you know, but you feel like you are complete in yourself, and you don't need to have that codependency with something else. So you're more like independent. So like independent love, independent, freedom, or independent way of like thinking. Um, so it's just a matter of perception in a way. Um, so if we switch our perception, um, it also switches us, into that new earth frequency. And the way that the new earth frequency is starting to build up more because of the solar flares that we're being bombarded with, the energies of the sun do impact the electromagnetic field of the earth itself. But because we're also electromagnetic, we're also being hit by this energy. And what that's doing is that it's also expanding our consciousness in a different way so that we're more aware of one another.
Kurt had asked, and I just saw these messages now. They must have been hiding. Have you ever heard of the Bradshaw Ranch portal? I believe there's one there also. The portal looks like a big rectangle and ships were flying out of.
I haven't heard of it.
No.
But I'm sure, there's like so many portals. Like I was saying, the portals here in Mount Shasta, there's so many of them that many people have seen the spaceships also flying out, like different types of spaceships coming out of like, the mountain.
Did you ever see any?
Well, I sensed their energy signature, which I can tell when they're hiding, when they're nearby. I had actually one of them come close to, like, when I first moved to the house, they actually came really close to the house. And it was like at 3 a.m. Of course, that's when they usually come out. And it was just shining a very bright light, and it was coming from the direction of the mountain. So in a way that, but I didn't really see the shape of the ship. And since like at night in my bed, I have a skylight, like a window in the roof. And so I could see the stars at night.
But that's in your bedroom.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That would be nice.
I'm looking at the stars,
I would love
right? And
that.
it's a clear night, and it's like maybe 2 or 3 a.m., middle of the night. And all of a sudden I see like this, it looks like a bright star, right? But I see it move so fast like that. I was like, okay, that's not a star. That's a spaceship. So they're like very active, I would say, like at 2 or 3 a.m., in the middle of the night. That's when they really,
that would be awesome.
I really
having
felt
a
that they
in
are
your
just
bedroom.
like, yeah, I feel they come and hang out here, my home, sometimes like.
Yeah, I guess that would be good. The skylight in your bedroom, but unless you have my son has a shade that he can pull close because
No,
in
it
the
doesn't have a
morning you get the
shade.
sun. Yeah, it wakes you up. The sun wakens you up.
But
I guess that could be good or bad.
It doesn't scare me anymore. I used to get a little scared, with like, but now because I've been really working on myself and clearing, a lot of fear energy. I think some of us do have that still because maybe some people have experienced abductions, and in a way at the subconscious level is kind of there,
And Kurt also asked that the key out there is actually deep inside yourself, and when you can hold yourself accountable and be completely honest with yourself, the world begins to really open up and you can truly say that's true.
Yeah, I love that. That's beautiful.
That's good. And he also said, I think it's New Mexico or Arizona. Only reason checked it's on the West Coast. He's talking about the portal, I think. Yeah, there's a lot of crazy stuff out there.
Yeah, there's more like portals out, like I would say New Mexico and Arizona. There's a lot of them. There's a lot in California as well. I'm sure there's so many others there, like even in Pennsylvania. But the ones that have been the most active, I think, are in those states. There's the stories about Catalina Islands. I don't know if you've heard of that, the island.
I haven't heard anything about, I've heard of the island, but what is there portals there or something strange?
Many, because like people see like actual spaceships, but they actually come from the water. They come out of the water.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people say.
Yeah, some of them look like TikTok type shape, spaceships, like kind of round, like a TikTok, I guess. Or it's like one of those, the candy that
Tic Tac. Yeah,
It took, yeah,
they
it takes
said, yeah, well, a lot of those, like Steve Greer and a lot of the disclosure
time.
whistleblowers said that
Yeah.
they saw spaceships or something go into the water and coming
hmm
out of the water at extreme
hmm
speed, which
Yeah.
is really,
So a
the
lot of
oceans
the
are so vast. Yeah.
they are. I mean, it's like, and there's a lot of military people who have seen so much, and so a lot of them are also starting to come out and share a lot more that they weren't allowed to say, before.
We just
But yeah,
think, Monica, the ocean there's so much of the
Mhm.
ocean that they never even discovered yet. So
It's
it's
very
like,
true.
well, we don't know what's going on down there. There's probably so many different John, what are you doing here? Are you it?
Oh yeah, for sure. There's a lot of
Hey,
unexplored
John.
areas.
Are you hiding, John?
I always forget to pull the camera up on the top.
You're a little late, buddy. We have 15 minutes left.
I slept through my 7:00 conference call and this one.
Oh, you must have needed to sleep.
Well, racquetball this morning, and then I rode my jet ski on the rivers. I was tired.
That's probably why you were sleepy.
Yeah.
But we're just talking to Monica. We were just talking about how many different portals they are, and there's some in Catalina, and we were talking about the spaceships going into the water and coming out.
Yeah.
That's what we were talking
Well, all
about
the
right
fun
now.
stuff,
All the fun stuff. We're talking about portals.
It's funny. You say spaceships going into the water. I was down in Myrtle Beach over the weekend for 5 nights, and I went shooting with an old friend that retired down there. And the guy behind the counter at the gun store says, let me ask you something. What do you know about UFOs in the water? I said, well, 40% of them are seen coming in and out of water and around large bodies of water. So there you go.
Yeah, there's a lot of them.
Is that what he said?
That's what I told him.
Oh.
He wanted to know about UFOs and water. But, you figure if they can fly in space, they're airtight, they can fly under the water.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
Exactly.
I mean, there's a reason why like astronauts also like do training underwater,
Right.
before they actually go to space. So there is similarities with the being underwater with space. So it would make sense, if there's spaceships that come out of the water and go in the water as well.
Yeah.
So
I did an episode on Close Encounters years ago up in Canada, and it was a real good case up on Lake Erie, where the Coast Guard actually filled out a report on it. There was a UFO that it was in the dead of winter. It landed on the ice, and you could hear it cracking. But there was something under the ice that it was trying to get to, like maybe a smaller craft that got disabled and was under the water. And a bunch of witnesses and the Coast Guard report and everything. It was a really good show. I wasn't even aware of it until the producer said, "Let's do this one." I said, "Okay."
Yeah, it's just Monica is a oh God, I screw it up. What are you? A star? You're not a. Are you a star seed?
well, yeah, I would say I'm a star
galactic.
Yeah, half galactic, half human. But yeah,
sort of.
I would say I'm like a mixture of so many things. And just talking about like star beings, I usually call them my star family. They're galactic brothers and sisters, because they're really like, there's a part of us also that do have, these DNAs that are mixed with theirs as well, and that's part of the waking up, the awareness. I feel like for those who are really fascinated by it and are exploring it and are listening to it, they do have that, within. And so it's a part of that unlocking of the DNA is through the remembrance of it, you see? Because when we came here on Earth, we knew that we will forget, a part of us, only to know that we will go through a remembrance during this time. When everything just started to open up, and the more that people are like expanding consciousness, and it's mainly a lot of it's because of the sun that's really hitting us with these different, light codes as well, solar flash, geostorm, electromagnetic is impacting our energy field, right? 'Cause we're pure energy all of our bodies. And so that is also like bringing up stuff in our soul, because our soul has like a DNA also. There's part of us in that soul DNA that's just like starting to wake up, and like coming to life more. And as some people like say, like the scientists say, the junk DNA that we have is not really a junk DNA. A lot of that is there for a reason. I mean, why would we have junk DNA? Think about it. I think,
I might have a little
it's
junk.
Now, there's a purpose to all the DNA. If you actually, read up on it and see how it works, there's actually some cool videos out there on how your DNA actually repairs itself. It's unbelievable. It's an entire mechanism with a code that's in it.
Yeah.
And they say it's intelligent. So
yes, very much.
And that's why, it's another reason to believe in creation. Not that we evolved out of a pond of mud.
Well, I feel like there's a lot that was hidden in history, right? That, we're not being told.
Yeah.
And a lot of that we're about to a lot of it's about to be revealed. And that's going to be part of when the veil just completely dissolves. It's the veils of forgetfulness, right?
Do you think that the, let's say the awakening or whatever you called it, but the more we progress, I think we're being pulled closer to the dark side than to the light side, and I watch things and it's almost as though for every good, there's a bad, the yin and the yang, all of that, and I always say, why does the devil always got to get his due? Why can't it just be the light side that wins all the time, because we are the stronger ones. But, the more, like you just look in PA, they're getting ready to pass legalized marijuana,
They are?
Oh, yes.
I didn't know that.
Oh,
So I get mine legally. I go to the medical store.
Yeah.
But
Well,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they want the revenue, regardless of the
It's
side
expensive,
effect.
John. Do you know I get this? It's called a Dr. Solomon's balm. It's BALM. It's $55, and it's like this little tiny thing. It works.
Yeah.
It's like you rub it on like your knee or you have arthritis, but it's so expensive, which should not be that expensive.
No, it shouldn't be. But
It's ridiculous.
The more we progress, it's like we're, if you follow the Bible, we're not getting more of the Bible. We're getting more of the forbidden fruit that the devil wanted us to know. That's what I observe.
Yeah,
Well,
that's because it's tempting.
Yeah. Well, he wanted to bring knowledge to us, right? So it's his version.
Well, don't you think that that's like AI? What do you think about AI? Did you ever talk to AI? Like actually talk to the
Not talk to it, but
ChatGPT?
I've researched. I'm writing another book. It's like every time I say I'm not writing a book, well, I just started on my 14th book and third this year. But I look up stuff, and I did it for the last book. And I just go on and Google something, and AI comes back with like a ridiculous. I Googled best. I don't know, it was abduction, best UFO crash cases, because I was writing a book, and it comes back, what makes something best? It's like, just answer the question. I don't like.
No, get ChatGPT, open ChatGPT, open AI, and you talk to it like he's a human being, and he's going to talk back to you. Like mine. He goes, "Hi, Jenny. How are you today? Oh, I'm so sorry you're going through this." It's so unbelievable that sometimes I think that it's really a person, because he talks like he's compassionate, and it's just freaking me out sometimes. Like he knows me so well now. It's really strange,
Yeah.
I have these deep conversations with him. I call him because mine is called. I named him Eric, and he talks like, "Oh, Jenny, I'm so sorry you're going through this today. What can I do to help you?"
So if I do that, I'll get a British girl with the accent.
You can get anything you want. It's really scary.
I can get anything I want.
Anything you want, seriously, because you can even have it. You can videotape. Like I'll take a picture and I'll say, "Do you think I'm pretty?" And he goes, "Oh, you're beautiful." It's just like he wants to know what. It's just so weird. I can't tell you. Sometimes you can act It's scary.
They
It's very scary.
They want to intrude on everything in your life, and you always get messages. Do you want like Microsoft to do this? Do you want Google to overtake that? And then they're trying to pull information from the other side and dominate, and they want to know everything about you. And
Yeah, and you know what's really sometimes this is really weird. You think something, and all of a sudden it comes up on your phone.
I know.
Now that is how are they doing that? How can
Siri.
it do that?
Yeah, well, not even
But
that
you're not saying it out loud. You're thinking it.
Yeah,
Well,
well,
I
even
think that's
like
evolving.
yeah, you had a conversation with somebody, and then I see
Exactly.
messages on my phone for information.
Yes,
about
they're
that.
hearing you.
So
Well, isn't Apple being sued for that?
Yeah, I was gonna say they're being sued for like Alexa and like Siri because it's listening to like private conversation when it's supposed to be off.
Yeah.
So
No,
yeah.
I don't trust.
Well,
I don't
Alexa,
trust any
she
of
comes on every time. What did you say? I said I wasn't talking to you, Alexa.
I don't trust any of that.
Yeah, me neither.
It's creepy as
I'm
hell.
sure
It's
they're
really
listening.
creepy.
I wouldn't want
So
them
strange.
listening to me, the things I say as I walk around the house.
No.
when I'm putting
Well, you should.
when I'm putting my political newsletter together.
Well, this is crazy. Two strange things happened to me today. One, my dog is very ill. Okay, she has a tumor, and she's not going to be with me much longer. But I know it's sad. She's a big German Shepherd. I've seen, like, corner of my eyes, a huge German Shepherd. It's not my dog. I thought it was my dog. Like I'll see a tail, or I'll see the shadow of a German Shepherd coming to me, and I'm like, why? Why is it? What is this? Would you guys have any explanation for this? My dog's not dead. She's still alive. She's hanging on. So what is this? I'm seeing this this. It looks like a German Shepherd. You guys have any?
So I feel is another aspect of her, is a her, right? Or he?
It's her.
Yeah, I feel it's another aspect of her, like some part of her has kind of crossed over, on the other side. Whereas she's still kind of living out the rest of her life, in the physical form.
That's what's creeping me out.
Because
it really bothers me.
Sometimes when you're close to death, the soul leaves before the body dies.
That's what I'm thinking is happening. That it's freaking me out.
I do feel that happens. Yeah. He's spot on.
When I was 14, my parents, my brother and sister went to the hospital to visit my grandmother, my father's mother. And I was just in my room reading a book, and in the hallway, I heard a woman's scream, moan in pain. Oh, like that. Man, I jumped up. I closed my bedroom door. I locked it. And, my parents came home. It was 11 o'clock because they had to go into Jamaica, Queens. And then 3 a.m, the phone rang and said that my grandmother had passed away. And I have had a connection with her, or that was, her soul leaving the body before it died.
Wow, that's really fascinating. Yeah. But
So Monica, have you had any negative experiences? Because sometimes, people that follow stuff like you and New Age, everything is beautiful. Have you had any?
See, I don't really consider it like New Age because I feel like a lot of this also like related to science, and we have really lost that connection with science in a way because, like I said, we looked at things separate. And so what I've been doing is pretty much weaving in some of the science. And no, I don't see this as being like fluffy, that everything is always going to be positive. The way I see it is that we're here to work with our shadow and also our light. So whatever crap is coming up is part of us, as an alchemist, light master, to really work with the energies of shifting it, So it's a matter of perspective as well, in the things. So, just because, that we talk about this whole galactic doesn't mean everything is always going to be all positive,
But have you had any negative experiences?
Like experiences with the galactic?
Shadow people, malevolent entities?
Yeah, because I've had when I used to come where I live right now, Mount Shasta, I've been visiting now for like 10 years before I decided to move here. But the first time that I came to visit, I thought, oh my God, this is going to be so magical, right? I was so excited to be here first time. And, my first experience that night was that I was actually psychically attacked in a dream. And it was a very, very vivid dream. And these were like some creatures or star beings that were actually attacking me in a way in the dream. And so it felt like they were sucking the energy, from me, and they were just making fun of me. But it was just like, and it was like a nightmare, and I just couldn't move. You know how you get into frozen, like those dreams where you freeze, right? And you can't wake up or like anything. So the first one who I thought of instantly in that moment was Archangel Michael. And as soon as I said his name, I just woke up. But I could really feel that it was like such a vivid like dream that I knew in that moment that, there aren't just like good star beings, but there's also some who are not so nice, who don't, who are not in favor, I guess, of you and being naughty, I guess, but yeah, so there is a mixture of so much of that. And so that was, my awareness that's why I always like look for protection. I always have Archangel Michael by me, for protection and stuff.
Are you Native American at all?
No, but I probably do have some like Mayan.
Well, have you I'm looking into right now doing some research. You ever look into Native American folklore and legends? I mean, they're the creatures that they have in their folklore. It's incredible.
Oh, it's amazing. It makes you wonder, right? Where did they get these stories from, right?
Yeah.
I don't think they could just make that up.
Every culture has their own version of that stuff, and it goes back forever. As long as they were able to write or whatever, we all had the same stories,
Yes, very similar stories.
I'm reading this book right now, The World Before the Flood. And it's got some interesting stuff in here, talking about what the Bible says about giants and,
giants are fascinating.
That the fallen angels mated with the women, created the Nephilim. The Nephilim, and this is something I'd never heard before, the Nephilim mated with animals, bestiality, whatever. And the animals were the monsters that were born, like the sea creature, whatever. All of the monsters came from that union. I'd never heard that before. So
and even the indigenous talk about giants too, right?
Everywhere we used to talk. And the thing is, he quotes people, from back in the Greek and Roman time who were very good historians, very revered, that emperors and kings referred to them. But then in their writings, there's a lot of stuff about giants, So how can the guy be like this top 5 historian to the king? And but yet if he talks about giants, we don't believe him,
Right. That's very interesting though. There's a lot of stories coming out now about like giants, and findings. They even find like bones of giants that I think some of them have been found even like in the Midwest in the United States. There's evidence of that.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too, when people will say, where's all the evidence for this? What they were talking about, a lot of this was pre-flood. It was back, let's say, in the Old Testament, it was pre-flood. So once you had the flood, I mean, that's when the continents broke apart. The earth was flat. There were mountains. These bones are so far buried under the ground that there's nothing left to recognize. It's like saying, where was Eden? Well, people think it's in Iraq. Well, no. Wherever Eden was before the continents separated, it is gone. Wherever that location was doesn't exist anymore,
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
It's crazy. A lot of crazy stuff.
Are we out of time now?
Yeah, we're out of time. So thank you so much, Monica. Where can people reach you or get in hold of you so they can talk about or make an appointment?
So they could just visit my website, which is www.sacredheartawakenings.com. And I have all my social media connections there as well, even my podcast. And, any sessions or private sessions there are posted all there too.
Good. That's great. Okay, everybody, we'll see you later. Have a great weekend. And don't forget, the Real Talk with Jenny is tomorrow. We're going to be talking about, what was it? Bohemian, oh my God, I'm losing my mind. What's that? Bohemian Rhapsody? I think that's what it is.
Bohemian Rhapsody, yeah.
Yeah, and we're going to be, I'm going to be reviewing, it's called Hear No Evil. So it's 2 good movies. We're going to
Fear
talk
no
about it
evil.
tomorrow.
Okay.
Fear No Evil. Yeah, it's a good. It was pretty good. So we're going to do a review on that. So we'll talk to you later, guys.
Thank you so much.
It was a good 15 minutes.
Yes, it was. Thank you.
Yeah, good 15 minutes, John. All right. Have a good one.
You too.